Illegal mining in South Africa is a growing problem. There's an estimated 6,000 abandoned mines in the country that are no longer profitable for large-scale industrial mining. And this is where small-scale miners, or the Zama-Zamas, are moving in. These miners are estimated to be in their tens of thousands just in Gauteng. An additional problem that Willem Els from the Institute of Security Studies has identified is the metal infrastructure that is also being removed from uranium mines that carry a risk of contamination. And he is joining us in the studio now to discuss that. Hi, Willem. Thanks again for joining us.
Hello, Linda. Thank you.
So this is a problem that I've not heard of before. Can you tell us, what is the extent of this?
Yeah, if you look at our mines here in South Africa, many of especially our gold mines, are actually dual mines. You get the gold ore quite rich, and that is especially in your Vaal Reefs bank. They're from all the way there from Vaal Reefs through Stilfontein, and then all the way on to Carletonville. You have uranium that is also being mined as a byproduct when you get to the gold mining. And so your challenge is many of those mines, especially like the mine in question is the Stilfontein mine, where they have very high or very rich deposits of uranium. And so what's happening now, as it's not profitable, and the reason why it's not profitable for your large scale miners, these Zama-Zamas or illegal miners that move into the area, they do not have all the overheads that your mining companies have in terms of legislation, in terms of safety, in terms of all the other things. So their profit margins are much higher than that of your legal mining. So what happens is, in some cases, they move into your mine shafts that are disused or closed. They open it, they break it open, and then they go into there. But what you will see is there's a labyrinth of tunnels that actually connect all the different shafts and all the different mines. So under your underground then in the Vaal Reefs, Klerksdorp, Orkney, as well as the Welkom Allen Reach area, they are all linked with different shafts and different tunnels underneath. So if you go to a disused mine or a closed mine, and you have actually access to your legal mines as well, and that is where your challenges come, and the fights between the legal mining fraternity and then the Zama-Zamas that intrude there. Now these are criminal syndicates. They work on the principle of that. A lot of human trafficking taking place, a lot of abuses, etc., etc. So, but what happens now is where they are moving into these areas, they go to where your more lucrative reefs are, and then they exploit that at night while the legal mining come in during the day, and then they do the mining. So there's a lot of conflict taking place there. But a byproduct from that is because of the high prices of steel in South Africa, in the world, it became quite profitable from them to start to harvest and to loot the steel infrastructure that's being used underground in the mines. Now, the challenge is, if you go to the Stilfontein mine that we mentioned is a dual-purpose mine, but it's also uranium. Those metal or the steel that is being used there, has been there for many years. They've been radiated by this uranium deposits, and that radiation is there for thousands of years. So you're not going to remove that. So what happens is, if they bring that metal to the surface and they go and sell it as scrap metal, those metal actually end up at the end of the day at your smelters. And the moment you mix it with all the other scrap metal or steel that they're melting there, it actually contaminates and radiates your ovens, your melting ovens, and at the end of the day, it's a lot of damage that is caused there, because in order to decontaminate the area, they have to break it down and they have to remove that contaminated material in order to prevent further contamination and radiation. So that is a big challenge for us.
What is the extent of the problem? Do you have any idea?
Well, the extent of the problem is, you can have a few kilograms of steel coming from a contaminated area. You mix it with a whole batch of uncontaminated metal that is melted. It contaminates all of them. And then, as I mentioned, the whole consignment that's been melted is being contaminated, but also your smelters. They have to break everything down, and that is millions and millions of rands of damage.
So does the problem sit at the illegal scrapyards, not legal ones?
Yeah, what's happened in the past, South Africa, especially the bomb disposal unit, who's responsible for the first responding and the monitoring of that, they actually embarked on a process where they brought in all the scrap metal dealers, and there was an awareness campaign with them to actually make them aware, but also your smelting works down in Vereniging and so on. And they actually were brought on board, and they acquired your radiation meters or your Geiger counters. So all consignments with them are then being monitored and screened before they are then taken in. Your problem is with your thousands of small scale and also illegal scrap metal dealers that do not have that facilities and also do not adhere to any agreements.
Are South African authorities aware of this problem?
Yeah, they are aware, but at the moment, because of crime and because of the sheer magnitude of it, your implementation of the agreements and monitoring of this is not what it's supposed to be.
So how do you address this? Do you go with Geiger counters to all these, scrapyards to check if there's any contamination?
Yeah, that is the preferred option that you have to do, or you have to force them or bring them on board to actually acquire those Geiger counters and do the screening themselves. Give them the training to use with that. So your challenge that you have is at the end of the day, if you look at solutions, we have to anything that is not controlled, everything that is not legalized or controlled by any legislation, it's difficult for the police to enforce that. So we will have to revisit our legislation. We have to revisit our regulations, and there must be consequences. Because if these people that are then breaking the law and in doing so endangering not only the economy but also other lives, etc., there must be consequence management for that as well. So we will have to come down and regulate this in a stringent matter, because it's a matter of life and death when it comes to radiation sickness, etc.
So it's first of all the people who steal the steel that are at risk, the people at the scrapyards, the areas around it. How far can this contamination go?
Well, it goes at the end of the day to the smelters, and because they are all equipped now with Geiger counters, they will pick it up. They do it proactively before they add these metal to the smelters. They do screen it. So that is where it normally stops. And but now they receive thousands and thousands of tons of scrap metal. So how do they now control where it's coming from? It's difficult to go back to the root and where it originated.
And how do they deal with it when they find it?
Well, at the end of the day, they have to isolate the contaminated steel before it goes into the smelter. And fortunately, up to now, we have not had an incident where they actually ended up in the smelters. So they were able to prevent them from being added because of proactive measures that have been implemented.
So could South Africa be breaking some international rule because they are not taking control of this?
Yeah, of course, there are various protocols in terms of radiation, and to some extent, you've got your ICSANT, you've got 1540, resolution 1540, and all your other protocols that we have to look at, and that they have an obligation as a member of the United Nations, and also because some of these directives come from the Security Council, and they are enforceable. So South Africa, if they do not adhere to some of these regulations, of course, there will be consequences in the form of sanctions and other ways where we will be pressured in order to adhere to this.
Do you have any idea of the scale of this?
The scale is massive because of the sheer magnitude of the industry. Your regulated or your formal industry is pretty big at the moment, but because of our informal sector that is growing and growing at rapid, especially because of your unemployment and all the other challenges that we have. It is very difficult to control that. So the scale is just massive.
So when you deal with the South African government or authorities, are they aware of the problem?
They are aware, they've got a very vibrant sort of sub committee or subcluster that is working between Department of Health, the South African Police Service, Department of Mines, and also NECSA, and they are looking at the regulation of these things, the implementation of that. At the end of the day, they are doing a great job because we still haven't had major incidents. They managed to prevent a lot of that, but also you see a challenge that we have when it comes to these type of scrap metal things is if you look at ICSANT, that is your international instrument where the prevention of nuclear and radiological sources to non-state actors. Your challenge with that is in South Africa, you have a major challenge where your radioactive sources are going missing. We're talking about orphan sources, and those are going missing because of poor control at hospitals, for instance, where radiation sources are being used for medicine, but also in the industry where your density meters and road building and so on and construction is being used. Many of these vehicles that are being hijacked, they've got this radioactive sources in the vehicle, in the density meter, for instance, and they end up at scrap metal dealers because it's a relatively small sort of object that weighs a lot because it is being embedded and sealed in a lead capsule. So those are your challenges that you face. That should those radioactive sources, that your cobalt 60 or your cesium-137, that is extensive being used, and it is not that well controlled in Africa because of our because of our porous borders. You have a lot of flow of these things between the borders. We see that in Africa itself, we've been one of the countries at one stage, there were more than 1,000 of these radioactive or orphan sources that were unaccounted for in South Africa. And it's even worse in other countries in Africa. And that is why there's a huge drive by the United Nations at the moment in order to sensitize African countries and to bring them on board to better police these type of things. Because at the end of the day, if it lands in the hands of your criminals, they can be used for extortion, etc., black market prices, they can sell that. But also if it lands in the hands of your radical groups, they can use that for your radiation dispersal devices or for dirty bombs, etc., etc. So that is the reason why the United Nations made it a priority, and why it is a drive at the moment in order to bring Africa on board to better control our radioactive and our nuclear resources.
William Mouse, thank you so much.
You're welcome.